Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Friday, the 5th of April. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined by a full-strength team today. First of all, Joshua Barry. How's it going, Joshua?
Good, yeah. Looking forward to the game on Sunday, obviously, and looking forward to building up to it both with you two fine gentlemen.
Yeah, cannot wait. Just 2 more sleeps. Chris Jack also joins us today. How's it going, Chris?
All good here, Derek. I echo Josh's every word there.
Yeah, absolutely. The battle fever's well and truly kicked in. Before we talk all things Rangers, just a quick word for our podcast sponsors, the MPH Boilers. They've got some great offers on just now on Viessmann Boilers, and they're also offering a free internet controller with every boiler that you purchase. They're also throwing in the first year service for free, ensuring your peace of mind. As ever, the all-important links are in the description below. Huge game coming up there. There's no doubt about it. Massive. Rangers could win that, take a big stride towards winning the title, which is quite remarkable as the sun shines into my window here. We're going to touch on our predicted teams and where the match could be won on Sunday at Ibrox. Let's kick off by discussing the teams. Now, we will hear from the Rangers manager around about 1:45 this afternoon, folks, so keep your eyes peeled for that. The press conference, as ever, will be on our YouTube channel, the transcription on a little later on the website as well. So we will get an idea about which players will make the game. And the first thing I'm hoping Philippe Clement will say is that Ridvan is fit and available. So this is myself and I think your team, Joshua, that we are going for if everyone is fit and able. So we've went for Butland in goal, a back four of Tavernier, Golson, Suter and Ridvan, Diamandi and Lundstrom in the middle, Cantwell in front of them with Sterling and Sima supporting Serial Dessers up top. Joshua, I'll come to you. Explain your thinking behind that team.
Well, first I'll come to you and say it looks nice. I don't know about where you are, Chris, but there's no sun where we are today, Derek. So it looks nice.
Like
looks nice down there. Yeah, absolutely.
Like the gates of heaven have opened up.
Yeah. This is, as you say, Derek, the press conference is later today. We'll have full coverage of that. And I think the big question going into that press conference and coming out of it will be, is Ridvan Yilmaz fit? Because to my mind, that has a lot of knock-on effects. If Ridvan is not fit at left-back, if he's not fit to start at left-back, I think that Dujon Sterling could potentially play there. We spoke about the reasons why in the build-up to the game this week, Derek. I don't think it's necessarily just personnel focused, but more how does the role of the left-back impact how the rest of the team plays, especially if Rangers don't want to look open on the counter-attack, as they did a little bit in the first half against Hibs. But if presuming everyone is fit, this is a team that I would go for. Abdallah Sima, yes, it's maybe a risk to put him in right away, but he was back right after the international break. Could he give you 60, 70 minutes? Probably. Fabio Silva generally, I think, has played well on the left-hand side, but we all know Sima's quality, and I think more generally, we all know that he's a bit of a threat in behind, gives Rangers something a bit different that they've lacked in the front line. Otherwise, Dujon Sterling definitely plays somewhere. I don't think he replaces Mohamed Diamandi in the middle. We can come on to talk about the midfield battle and why I think Diamandi is really important and is going to be one of Clement's first picks on that team sheet on Sunday, Derek. But he definitely starts in there for me. And the right-hand side is where Sterling has tended to play as of late. And obviously left-back Ridvan Yilmaz, if fit. Which I think everyone watching this video will be hopeful that he is. Definitely starts at left back for me. So that's what I think it could be come Sunday afternoon. But obviously we'll wait and see what Philippe Clement has to say later on about who might make it and who might not.
Yep, I think if Abdallah Sima is fit enough to start, I'm with you, Josh. I would start him over on that left-hand side. I just prefer him to Fabio Silva. It will be his Old Firm debut, Fabio Silva. I'm sure he will make an appearance from the bench. It will be Diamandi's Old Firm debut as well. There was, when I was on with Stevie yesterday, a few comments suggesting, would you bring him out? Is it the game for him? And I think there's a few people would prefer Tom Lawrence in there alongside John Lundstrom. But we'll bring up Chris's team and we'll discuss that as well. This is who Chris is going for. Is that the same team? Oh, he's got it's the
Fabio
same
Silva.
team apart from he's got Fabio Silva instead of Cyril Dessers. Chris, what's your thinking behind that?
Before we go into the team, it looks like Derek's channeling his famous Dado Purso there with the sun shining through as we discuss our old firm game. It's reminiscent of a famous picture from back in the day. Hopefully that's hopefully that's a good omen for the weekend.
Just need a bandage on my head.
I think as Josh outlined there, a number of the reasons for the 10 players, I have to agree with him. I've also disagreed on the Manscaped play through the middle. I just have more faith. If a chance comes along, I've got more faith in Silva to put it away than Dessers. I know Josh had a piece on Dessers over the last couple of weeks looking at his overall impact and looking at some of the numbers behind it. I think in these games, you think back to the Parkhead game, there was a chance to shoot, and he didn't, of course, and that then ultimately ended up in a defeat for Rangers that day. I just have more faith that if that one chance comes along, Rangers are going to have to be clinical in this game, and I've just got more faith that Silva will put the ball in the back of the net than Dessers. I think Dessers will have a part to play. You'd imagine he'll get at least the last 20 minutes or so. But for me, Silva is a more accomplished finisher, and for me, he gets the nod.
Yeah, I don't think there's much debate there. He is a more accomplished finisher. However, Desser's record, as you highlighted at the weekend, Joshua, it's not to be sniffed at. If he gets an opportunity and he doesn't have to think about it, then you put your money on him converting it. That's the thing. Does Chris have a point, though, with Fabio Silva up top there?
I think he does, and I was swithering this morning, Derek, as to who I put in up front. Not that it has any say on obviously who actually plays at the weekend. So I think it's 11 of 13 or something like that goals that Dessers has scored have been, or maybe it's 10, have been first touch finishes.
Yeah,
Parkhead one stands out. I actually thought that at the weekend, the moment where he set Scott Wright up for the chance where he cut back, he loves that chop onto his right foot or his left foot. He timed that well instead of trying to overdo it and maybe try a shot from a narrow angle. If he doesn't have time to think about it, he is a better finisher, and that is something that it becomes a bit of a cliche, I think, with strikers. But if you look back, even the game against Ross County where Dessers scored from his two chances where he took it first time, the lob over the top and the header, both two are probably the more difficult chances. And when he had a little bit more time to think about it, in general, he didn't find the back of the net. He could have probably scored 3 or 4 on that day. Over the course, he's been good under Clement. Frustrating in moments, yeah, absolutely. And if hypothetically had a big chance and he didn't score at the Old Firm at the weekend, I think that would make up a lot of people's minds about him. If Fabio Silva was on the team sheet, I wouldn't be unhappy about that. I like him as a player. I think he would play that role slightly differently, and especially if you get Abdallah Sima running in behind when Silva's coming short and trying to link play, I think that could be a nice dynamic. I'm just going off the basis of Dessers has generally started as the number 9 because of the injuries on the left-hand side in particular as off late, and expect Clement to kind of continue with that and not rock the boat too much ahead of the game on Sunday.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Lots of comments coming in with differing views as to who should start on Sunday. I'll bring a couple up. Now, this is a player that I think is in with a shout of starting over on that left-hand side. CGM55 says, what about Matondo? Could he play on the right, move Sterling into midfield? Don't want to see him on the right. I don't think that works. Sterling into midfield is certainly a shout. I know that Rangers will need to win that midfield battle, Joshua. I think whoever wins that area of the pitch will go on to win the game. It's huge, which is why I was discussing Mohamed Diamande. He likes time on the ball. It will be his first time sampling the Old Firm game. We all know what it's going to be like, 200 miles an hour. Is that the game for him?
Yeah, I don't think Matondo should ever play on the right ever again. I agree with the comment that from CGM55 that Matondo he's shown bright moments this season, but he's far more comfortable off the left for me, and wouldn't be totally surprised if you see him start because it might be an open game. And as mentioned, injuries kind of halted him this season. He has had a lot of moments, bright moments, probably going a little bit more back to the start of, the last year, near the start of the season. Dujon Sterling actually hasn't played in that midfield 3 all that much. And I agree that it's an area where Celtic are really strong. If they play Hatate, O'Reilly and McGregor, it's arguably their strongest area of the pitch. The reason that I think it will be this midfield three is Clement hasn't gone for a more conservative midfield selection when he's gone away to Real Betis or Benfica, so I don't think he'll do the same. I don't think he'll do that for a home game. I don't think you need to do that. Because you probably want to stop Celtic at source a little bit more instead of trying to sit back and let them have the incentive. And the reason that Diomande plays for me, and I put a tweet about this out about this the other day, is that he's someone who can take the ball with pressure in midfield. And Rangers in a number of Old Firm games have not had that. That's not Lundstrom's game. Lundstrom isn't going to take the ball in pressurised situations and turn out, as we've seen Diomande do. At times, has he given the ball away a bit cheaply? Yes, I think so. But again, not dissimilar to Dessers. And maybe this is just getting used to his teammates. He's been thrown in it quite quickly to the Rangers team, hasn't he? But he's tended to give the ball away, I think, a little bit more when he's had time and it's became a bit more frantic. I actually think when he plays under pressure and that decision is made for him a little bit quicker, he's tended to pick his passes slightly better. So Sterling has generally played off the right-hand side as of late. He's definitely in that starting 11 because of what he gives you in a number of aspects of the game. But I don't expect Clement to go to a kind of more conservative midfield three purely because he hasn't done that away from home in Europe. I still think you want to try and play through the midfield in a way that Rangers haven't managed to. And a lot of recent Old Firm games, I think, has harmed them because then they give up too much control and they rely too much on going over the top directly. And for me, Todd Cantwell's going to be in that number 10 position. It's a big game for him. He needs to win that game against Callum McGregor, absolutely. And do Rangers need to assert themselves in midfield and win that battle? Yes, absolutely. But I just don't expect Clement to go more conservative than he has done, especially away from home in Europe.
Yeah, let's get a few points coming in before we come to you, Chris. Sky Willie says, good morning from sunny Forteventura. Always great to catch the show live. Usually I get the recorded version. Always a great show and the best out there. Well, thank you very much for tuning in, Sky Willie. And David Blueber, a point just on that midfield area, Chris. He says, just blocking your face there momentarily. Start Diomande and Cantwell. They will run over the top of us. Just on Cantwell, Rangers need a big performance out of this guy on Sunday, don't they?
They do. I think if you think back to the last Old Firm game last season, I think that was definitely his best performance in this fixture. It was really impressive that day, but it was a game where title was obviously going, didn't mean that much in the grand scheme of things, as much as Old Firm games can never be meaningless. That one also carried a significantly lesser degree of importance on it. This one carries huge importance on it, huge significance. And if you're going to bill yourself as a big game player, you have to turn up in the big games. I think it's been a difficult season at times for Cantwell. He's also had his positional issues. He's spoken about that. We've spoken a lot about that. Being moved out to the right hand side. He spoke last week at the press conference about playing in that number 10 role. That's the position that gets the best out of him this stage of the season. I think as Stevie wrote in his column last week, this stage of the season is where you need to stand up, be counted, deliver. If you're one of the main attacking outlets in this side, Celtic come into Ibrox, there is no better stage for you to go and really stamp your authority on the game. On the flip side of that, of course, is Callum McGregor starting for Celtic. McGregor, big fan of him, terrific midfield player, has been for club and country for a long, long time. Has the ability to run these games because he has done so often. If Rangers allow McGregor the time and space on the ball and he gets to dictate the tempo of it, he gets to pick his passes, he gets to drive the team in his way, it becomes very difficult for Rangers because they then lose control of that midfield. So Cantwell, I think, has a big job in his hands to influence the game in an attacking sense. If he can get a goal or an assist, that would also be great. But his man-to-man up against Callum McGregor, I think, is going to be really important. And if he can win that individual battle, it gives Rangers a better chance of winning the midfield one as a whole and allowing Lundstrom and certainly Diomande, as Josh outlined earlier on. I know people are perhaps a bit wary about Diomande. He was the one that I was actually swithering over. Do you put Sterling in the middle of the pitch? Do you go with Diomande? I think if Diomande starts, as Josh said there, it's a signal from the manager that he's not going to change the setup that works that he believes in just because it's Celtic. I think if you put Sterling in there, it's almost an admission that Celtic are very dangerous in the middle of the pitch, and we're going out to try and stop them rather than playing your game, your style, playing your players, and allowing them to go and enforce their capabilities and abilities onto the game. So that's why I think Diomande gets that position. But for Cantwell, it's a really, really important game, because if he doesn't perform and Sunday doesn't go well, people will then start questioning his position, not just in the side, but in the squad, and say, well, can we do better? Is there a better option out there in the transfer market than Todd Cantwell? For as much as he contributes, as much as we like him, as much as we see he's definitely got qualities that can be really effective, if you're ineffective against Celtic, there's no really much point in being a Rangers player, unfortunately, for him.
Yep. I'm looking for a big performance from Todd Cantwell on Sunday. Dujon Sterling as well. We've all got him in our first team starting 11s, Joshua. We've all got him on the right-hand side. This is based on the fact that we all hope that Ridvan will be fit enough to start at left back. There has been some calls, as we've seen in the comments, that he maybe should be playing in midfield. How big a role does Dujon Sterling play on Sunday, do you think?
Yeah, well, I think he definitely plays somewhere. He's probably, if you were to pick 3 or 4 players outside of the usual, Tavernier's going to play, Goldson's going to play, Butland's going to play. Yeah. In big games, I think Sterling is increasingly becoming a certainty as well. He played off the right-hand side away at Benfica, didn't he, where he scored that goal. If Ridvan isn't fit, I would be tempted to play him at left back purely because, and we discussed this in the Rangers Review Extra video this week, didn't we, Derek? If Rangers play a high and wide fullback and Barisic is naturally going to move in that direction, he's going to try and provide width. He doesn't want to move inside the pitch. I think that can leave Rangers slightly open on the turnover, as we saw in the first half against Hibs. Hibs didn't have a shot after, I think, 65 minutes, basically after Sterling moved to left back, and their substitutes impacted that in the flow of the game. They started to tire. Rangers started to have a bit more control. But Sterling is a dominant player, and certainly that materialised in that left back zone. I think you want to get him in a position in this game where you can get his one of his other qualities, which is his ball carrying. You can try and get him facing the play. We saw that away at Benfica as well. And if he plays on that right hand side, I think a byproduct of that is it should give Tavernier the trust that he's got someone who can cover him. He spoke about that after the League Cup final, didn't he? Where he knew that when he attacks the box, especially in that second half, that he's got Sterling as someone who can cover him and who can provide a bit more defensive stability when needed. He obviously played in midfield on that day. I just think that Diomande is suited to this game because it should give Rangers someone who is natural taking the ball under pressure, taking the ball with his back to goal and giving Rangers a bit of control in the midfield. Whether it's left back or on the right wing, Sterling will play. And I think the fact that probably how many people we got watching, 734, I'd imagine that at least 700 of those people, if not more, would have him in that Dujon Sterling in their starting 11 come Sunday, which shows how important a player he's become for Rangers over the last few months. And I guess how good news it was that injury wasn't serious. If you could get Sterling in there, Ridvan in there, Sima in there, Derek, that gives that starting 11 a really strong look. And outside of how Rangers will approach this tactically, just having those players who are in good form, who I think are going to win their duels, who can cover a lot of ground, who are technically good, who can take their players on 1v1 and win their 1v1 battles. I think that'll give Rangers and Clement a big helping hand if indeed they're all ready for Sunday.
Yep. The first game at Ibrox, Chris, I felt was a missed opportunity. Rangers were dreadful the way they approached the game. I expect a complete opposite on Sunday. Do you expect them to go out all guns blazing from the off?
I think so. I was going to swear there and coin a famous Neil Warnock quote, but if I wouldn't have, I wouldn't. Well, I think you know the one that I'm referring to. But I think the manager's style, it's not to be fearful in these games. It's not to be. He will respect the challenge, but he certainly won't fear it. As I said earlier on, I think he will go into it and try and enforce his style on it. Now he speaks about this dominant football. We've seen the changes tactically over the last few months. The team is getting better and better all the time. The fact that we have these options back now, the team that we're all able to discuss and potentially pick for this one is very, very different from even just 3-4 weeks ago in terms of the options. So there's definitely there's a feel-good factor amongst the support again. There's a belief within this side again. You've got every single seat at Ibrox taken by a Rangers fan tomorrow. There are, as much as there's also a lot riding on it, and you can never underestimate a Celtic side that are going for a title. Everything is there for Rangers. Everything is in place for Rangers to go and produce a big performance, a big result, and take a big step towards the title. So fingers crossed that's how it's going to unfold. But I think it'll be a very, very different Rangers performance from the one that we saw in that first game. They were a mile off it in every regard that day. Manager got it wrong. Players never turned up. Celtic won far more comfortably than they should ever be allowed to do at Ibrox. And I would be amazed if we see Rangers approach the game in a similar vein tomorrow. It's not going to happen. Clement knows how to win these games. I think he'll have learned a lot from the Parkhead game. As I say, team's in a good place, support are in a good place. So everything's there for Rangers on Sunday.
Yep. Do you expect that sort of start from Rangers, Joshua, 100 miles an hour, just to go at Celtic and try and get their noses in front early on?
I think a really important thing is you see, if you look back to that game, and obviously Rangers had that goal that was disallowed, and from the other side, Michael Beale might argue, well, that approach, if the referee call is whatever your interpretation, whether it's right or more favourable on that day, then the approach works, and suddenly we're talking about, that was a patient approach that worked in that game. However, to the flip side of that is that I think Celtic actually had probably 3 or 4 really dangerous moments because, as Chris said, because of the way Rangers pressed on that day, Celtic had a bit too much control, or a lot too much control of the midfield. And the key point for me is perception, Derek. How is your approach perceived? Because in this game, when you've got a full stadium in an Old Firm game, and it is perceived that you are letting the opposition have a comfortable start, whether you are or not, whether you're trying to trap them in certain areas of the pitch, whether you're trying to press them aggressively on when they play backwards, as materialised for the goal that was disallowed that Kemar Roofe scored, how it is perceived is so important. And I remember that day, the build up to that was so significant because it was supposed to be after Rangers' summer rebuild, and Celtic were in a bit of a vulnerable position coming into that game. It was supposed to be a moment where Rangers were seen to go at them and kind of take the ascendancy, take the opportunity that was sitting there for them. And it was again perceived that did not happen. What Clement has done since he came into the club, I think, is get the fans on board in a way domestically that I don't think we've always seen over the last number of years. And a big part of that is because people relate quite a lot with the football. It's, there's times where it's going to take Clement time to embed different ideas. There's times where Rangers will have to set off the game, but generally one of the key words, I think, if you're describing Clement's football, especially at home, especially when he has the options, because it's important to remember that for a lot of the season he has not played with players playing in favourite positions. But one of the words I think you'd connote with it is that it's intense and it doesn't hand off too much control, a lot of man-for-man pressing. So I don't think you'll see, I agree with you, I don't think you'll see a similar approach to what we saw in the first Old Firm game of the season, and that feeds into the stands, and that obviously feeds onto the pitch, and in what will be the last game with just one set of fans at Ibrox in an Old Firm game for a while. That could be really important, because if you cast your mind back to that game back in, what was it, the start of September, there was frustration in the ground right from 10-15 minutes, and that can't happen on Sunday, because if you can get the fans on board, if you can create the type of atmosphere that we kind of saw maybe the season before at times under Van Bronckhorst, Rangers managed to get that quick start, didn't manage to sustain the intensity throughout the game. That's what we've seen from Clement's football so far, and I think that will be a real key deciding factor come Sunday.
Yep, as well as the starting 11, I'm sure the substitutes will have a part to play in the game as well. Jordan Neeson with an interesting point here. He says, surprised more people aren't wanting Roofe to start. He's the most dangerous player in these Old Firms, and he's finally fit, so use him. The manager was speaking about Roofe and why he was excluded from the squad against Hibs last weekend. I think he makes the bench on Sunday, Chris. I wouldn't be surprised to see him come on at some stage as well. Can't see him starting though.
No, not at all. No, I don't think he's even though the manager did say the other day there why he's worked him through this, or how he's worked him through this period, that doesn't mean to say that he's fit to go and start Old Firm games. I just don't see it. If there was no other option, if Dessers and Silva had fallen out of the squad for whatever reason, and you had to, then that's a different situation. When you do have those two options, I just don't see Roof being anywhere near the starting 11. I think also Josh had a piece over the last couple of weeks about using Roof as a finisher rather than a starter, to use that terminology. I think that's right. If you do need a goal, if the match is going in a certain way, and you feel that Roof can influence it, I think we all know what he potentially can do. We know his strengths. We know what he can bring to the side. But his days of starting games for Rangers are behind him now. I just don't see how he gets in the side, because I know he is fitter. He's came through a couple of games over the last few weeks, but no, you still couldn't rely on him to get through the game. You couldn't rely on him to put in the power of work that it's going to take. Now, whether it's Silva, whether it's Dessers, they're going to have to work that Celtic back four. They're going to have to have a physical presence. They're going to have to put in a lot of running to then open the game up, to open the spaces up for potentially the match winner could be the one that comes off the bench rather than the one that actually starts. The one that starts does have a really important job to do, and you just couldn't trust Kamaru to do that job for the side. As I said right at the start, if you had that one chance and you had to back a striker to put it in the back of the net, it would be Kamaru. But I'm not convinced that he would be able to get through the work for the side to last the time on the pitch. So now for me, Roof, if he has to have a part to play, if the game's going that way, by all means, great option to have, but not from the start of the match.
Yeah, Joshua, how big a win would this be if Rangers can get over the line on Sunday? They would move, of course, back top of the table with a game in hand. We'll discuss before we wrap up about said game against Dundee on Wednesday. A bit of concern over whether that will be played for the second time. But how big a win do you think it will be?
Very big. It's probably is this the Old Firm with the most riding on it from a Rangers perspective in a few seasons? Probably in terms of the outcome of the season. I'm sure that Clermont, if Rangers didn't get the result they wanted, Clermont will be pretty defiant and speak about the next game, and that's pretty true to form. I don't think he'd be bluffing there. But if Rangers hypothetically are able to, as Chris says, seize what is there for them, they're the team that since Clermont came to Scotland are in the ascendancy. If you look at their points per game in that time, if you look at what Clermont has done with the options and the resources that he has had, with the injuries that he's had, it is set up for them to go and really take control of this title race, which is obviously a sentence that we didn't think we'd be saying when he came into the club. Rangers can obviously go 5 points clear, can't they? If they win these next two games, and that would be so significant going into the split. So big, they're always big games, and they're always big games at the end of the season. But this just holds so much significance, because I've seen a lot of people saying, "Is this a title decider? Is it not?" I'm tempted to say that it is, because if Rangers could go and push 5 points ahead, then that means they just need to win the remaining games, even outside of Parkhead, to go and win that title. If Celtic are able to go 4 points clear with a home Old Firm game to come, I think that's a big psychological advantage, given Rangers have not won at Parkhead enough, really often at all in the last decade. So huge game, really looking forward to it. And if Rangers can seize what is there for them, then I think they can really take control of this title race in the next 5 days. Yeah,
it'll be a huge result, but I won't be popping champagne corks if they do win on Sunday. I've seen famously Celtic go to Ibrox and move 5 points clear. The helicopter Sunday season when the bedsheet was brought out at full time and the famous slogan, and Rangers went on and won the title at Easter Road. So certainly work to do after the game on Sunday. And the game immediately after, you've seen that news yesterday, folks, the Dens Park pitch has been deemed playable ahead of their game against Motherwell this weekend. There were concerns that maybe moved to another venue with heavy rainfall expected up there in Tayside in the next few days. A Dundee statement yesterday read, ahead of Saturday's cinch Premiership fixture against Motherwell at the Scott Foam Stadium, Dundee Football Club can confirm that the pitch is playable. Category 1 referee inspected the pitch on Thursday afternoon and stated the pitch was playable at the time of inspection. This is a result of the hard work put in from the club staff and a range of contractors. The club are aware that there is further rain forecast for tomorrow and Saturday morning, and therefore the full pitch has been covered with rain covers for that period. Due to the weather forecast, a precautionary pitch inspection has been scheduled for Saturday morning to ensure the pitch is in the same condition as it currently is. We look forward to seeing a large Dundee support out in force on Saturday to get right behind the D in this important match. Interestingly, reportedly, Celtic offering pitch covers to Dundee, which just seems a bit weird, Chris. But looking forward to heading back up there for the umpteenth time this season.
Chris, can we just say that if we're struggling for a feature idea next week, I think Chris could write probably 2,000 words on his travels to Dens Park this season, because obviously it was the first one, which was the firework game, wasn't, or the flare game, and was it traffic the first time round that held Rangers up or Dundee up?
Team bus got caught on the Tay Bridge on the way from St Andrews, so kickoff was delayed, and then there was also the fire alarms going off in the way end, and then we're off the park and then back on the park. I think it was midnight that we were doing the post-match show that night, Derek, after the press conference. I think it was manager and Scott Wright that spoke to us that night. Now I've officially had my fill of Dundee this season, but Josh has timed his week off impeccably, so I can't even force him to take on to the team and go back up. So I will be having my hat-trick ball appearance at Dens Park this season. Well, potentially, because who knows if the game will even be at Dens Park. There was talk this morning about it potentially being played on, or that Motherwell game being played on Sunday if it can't go ahead on Saturday. I've seen Airdrie has been mentioned as a potential venue on Monday, which I'm sure the Dundee players and management will be thrilled about if they then need to play Rangers on a Wednesday, having played Motherwell on Monday. So it's all just a bit of a shambles all round, isn't it? We've spoke about this after the game that was. The game that never was a couple of weeks ago. Dundee have to get this issue sorted, because the pitch is not acceptable for top flight football. It's not acceptable for one club to potentially cause the league so many issues. Now, we know at that stage, if it had been in September, there's still time in the schedule. When we get to this stage, there's no time left. Match day 33 is approaching. Match day 34 has still to be scheduled. And unfortunately for the SPFL, it's involving Rangers and Motherwell. Motherwell still going for the top six. So there's a lot riding on the weekend's game. Next midweek carries huge ramifications, also for a number of reasons. So they have to find a solution to this. If it ends up being behind closed doors, then Rangers fans are quite rightly not going to be very happy about it. I don't think we'll get to the situation of Dundee forfeiting the game and just handing Rangers.
Imagine that happened.
For the Twitter fallout, I would quite fancy it just to see some of the reaction to it. But I don't think that's going to happen. So this game, it will get played someday, will get played somewhere. But where and when that is, I think it's still too early to tell. It's fine Dundee saying the pitch is playable on Thursday afternoon. I'm more concerned about how playable it is come next Wednesday evening.
Me too. James Skeen with the point. This is something I was thinking about yesterday. Says you play at Ibrox. Why don't we play at Ibrox? Give them their home allocation. Rangers take what would have been their away allocation at Dens. Let them lose the home dressing rooms a day out for them down at Ibrox. But the game will be played. Just to get the game on. I think it is a bit of a nonsense at this stage of the season, like you say, Chris. So yeah, one to certainly keep an eye on developments over the weekend. Mackin with a point. We'll wrap up here. He says, I've said since the last game at Parkhead, we'll beat them at home. What are your score predictions? So we'll end up on that. Joshua, we'll come to you first.
I will take the most classic score prediction for a game like this, and I'll say 2-1, so neither of you guys can take it.
Chris?
They say that only fools predict the outcome of Old Firm games, and here are three fools, all plumping for 2-1 Rangers. I think that's what I'm going for as well.
Okay, I'll go outside the box. I'm going to say 4-1. So there you go.
What was the game that you did you not predict? Was it the Dortmund away from home or something?
I think it was the Dortmund game. No, Dortmund. It was some game. It was mental, and I got it pretty much I think almost spot on. That was a bonkers game.
You
So,
only remember the big ones, don't you? So I think that's a good approach from you.
Yeah, I'm sticking my neck out here. I'm going Rangers. Right, that'll do us there. Just a heads up of what's to come. Well, first of all, on the website, you'll find Stevie's weekly fan column of who he is opting for on Sunday if he was in Philip Clement's shoes. So do go and check it out, folks. We have the press conference this afternoon. We'll hear from the Rangers player around about 1:15. Philip Clement around about 1:45. So keep your eyes peeled for that. For those of you that are members on the YouTube channel, I'll be on a little later on. With I think it's your good self, Chris. I think will be on, or Josh, is it you? One of you, yeah.
To be decided.
TBC, folks. But that will be to come. So hopefully you can join us for that. If we don't see you then hopefully your team wins at the weekend. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Bye for now.